Today we're being hosted by three organizations. I'm representing the California Coalition on Family Caregiving. My name is Donna Benton, and I'm the director of with the coalition. And then we have Legal Aid at Work, and we have Katie Witchett, an expert in understanding policy and the legal things around paid family leave. And then our other two just wonderful experts with the Work and Family Coalition, our third co-sponsor. And so you'll hear from Jasmine and Katie today, who will go over a lot of the education and things around this and how we go about organizing and how we got where we are today with paid family leave improvements. Next slide. So who are we? The coalition, of which the California Coalition for Caregiving, we're a part of the Work Family Coalition. So there's this great umbrella organization. And really the Work Family Coalition is a statewide alliance of all types of organizations. And we're united in the belief that all people should have time, resources, and a support system to care for themselves and their biological or chosen families. So, you know, what you hear all the time, that work-life balance, but we want to make sure that we really have that belief. So think of if you are in an organization or an individual, becoming part of the coalition is a great thing, and we'll talk about that later. Next slide. So our goal today is why is paid family leave important? We are going to discuss an overview of the leave laws and what changes occurred as of January 1st of this year around paid sick and safe days, the California Paid Leave and State Disability Insurance Program, and new job protections. So, and of course, because we're advocates, we would also want you to be a part of the change. So we'll be just talking about that too. Next slide. So why is it important? Well, I already gave you one statistic, which is if there are 4 million caregivers, half of which or more are paid, that's at least 2 million working people who are impacted by family caregiving. Next slide. And what does that mean when we say that somebody is a family caregiver? This is when you're caring for your mom, your dad, a spouse, a close friend, a child, an adult with disabilities. All people, you know, we take care of family and friends and chosen family. And so one of the reasons that it's important to have paid family leave is overall, it helps you care for somebody and being able to take that time off and have the mental space of not having to juggle work and care at the same time. It also helps really close that pay gap between men and women. There's still a gap, but you know, if everybody can have paid family leave, we can begin to close that pay gap without penalizing any one gender. It also enables parents to be home during those important developmental years with their baby, and that's the most critical time for a baby. It helps with healthcare costs. Family members who are caring for an older adult or someone with disability, generally, if you're cared for by a family member or a friend or a chosen family member, you're more likely to have a longer, healthy life, even with your disabilities. You're able to go to the medical appointments, and you find that the care is more personalized. And so it helps reduce healthcare costs, but it improves the quality of life for the person you're caring for. And it really does, finally, it really promotes an economic independence that is a preventative factor against that kind of interpersonal violence, so that you're able to take time away. And you'll see with the new laws that if you need to get out of a dangerous situation, these laws help you. Next. So we've talked about caregiving too, but why are we family caregivers? Well, you know, it helps with longevity. It keeps us connected and close as family members, friends, and chosen family. It allows for that real personalization of attention and medical help. And it's really what I always think is caregiving goes across all generations. And if you're caring for somebody, an older adult, you're modeling for the next generation of care. So, my caring for my mother, my grandmother, I hope is a good model. So when my daughter needs to care for me, she'll do the right thing. And so that's why we get to be these models for the next generations. And so that's also an important reason. And you want to show that you can have that balance in life. So next. So I'm going to turn it over now to
Me, Jasmine.
you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Donna. Appreciate you talking us through those. So let's go ahead and start off with a quick overview of these laws governing paid leave in the workplace. So at the federal level, we have just one leave law, the Family Medical Leave Act, or FMLA, which I'm sure many of you have heard. And this law provides eligible employees with unpaid job-protected leave for family and medical reasons. But here in California, however, we have a much more comprehensive set of state-level paid leave laws and programs that are designed to support California workers and their families. And these include the California Paid Sick and Safe Days, the Pregnancy Disability Leave, the California Family Rights Act, or CFRA, and Safe Leave. Safe Leave. In addition, California offers two programs that provide partial income replacement during leave, and those are paid family leave and disability insurance. It's important to note that your workplace must comply with both federal and state laws, but also with the local ordinances of the city that you work in. And while we won't dive into the local ordinances today, please keep in mind that some cities have their own rules. So if you're in San Francisco like me, San Francisco has a law called the Family Friendly Workplace Ordinance, which gives certain employees the right to request flexible or predictable work arrangements to help manage caregiving responsibilities, like Donna kind of mentioned before. We'll go ahead and focus on just the state laws and programs today, but it is a good idea to review your local regulations as well. So let's go ahead and dive in, starting with covering one of the basics of paid leave, which is paid sick and safe days. So what are paid sick and safe days? Sick days are used for an employee's own illness or to care for their family member, including the diagnosis, care, and treatment of an existing health condition or preventative care like annual checkups. And these can be used, and in case you were curious and didn't know what safe days were, these can be also used to seek care or services related to domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. And so how can you use your paid sick and safe days? Let's take it down into a tangible level. You can use it to care for your child who has the flu or is sick and needs to stay home from school. You can use it to take that annual physical you might have been putting off. Sorry, didn't mean to call anyone out. Maybe I'm just talking about me, but can use it for that. And then you can also use it to take an elderly parent to a medical appointment. And so these are just some examples of how you can use these days. And so I'm also sure you're wondering, how many do you get? How many of these days do you get? Well, all California workers working 30 or more days within a year are allowed to earn up to a minimum of 40 hours or 5 days of paid sick and safe leave per year, whichever is more. And this is just the minimum. This number can vary between workplaces, and employers can give their employees more days off. There are some cities like LA, which requires six sick and safe days. So be sure to check your city's ordinances. Another thing that goes along with taking 6 days is you can take a few hours off, a half day of work, and it doesn't have to be a full day at a time. But your employer can ask you to use a minimum of 2 hours at a time. When it comes to eligibility, in order to be eligible for these days, you must accrue 1 hour of paid sick leave for every 30 hours worked, or have been employed for at least 90 days and worked in California for 30 days. And when it comes to your sick days, your employer must pay 100% of your regular rate of pay. They cannot deny requests for paid sick days, and they can't require you to find a coworker to cover your leave as a condition of using leave. So that was something when I first learned this that surprised me. They also can't require documentation, which, for example, a doctor's note as a condition of using leave unless you take 3 or more days in a row. And another thing is your employer doesn't need to know why you are using your paid sick days. On the other hand, your responsibilities as an employee is the sooner that you can let your employer know, the better. You should notify your employer as soon as possible when you know you need to use your paid sick days. And although with an unanticipated illness or medical emergency, it is still okay to notify your employer as soon as it is practical. Okay, so that was an overview of sick and safe days. Here are the updates for 2025. And this is very relevant given the recent LA fires, but one of the new reasons is that agricultural employees who work outdoors can now use these days to avoid smoke, heat, or flooding created by a local or state emergency, including when the employee's work site is closed due to such conditions. The other new reason that you can use sick and safe days is because California workers can now you can use these days for specific reasons to support a family member who is a survivor of crime, including domestic violence and needs to secure their safety. In case you'd like to learn more about these new laws, you can go to this link at the bottom that will lead to California's Department of Industrial Relations. And I already imagine people are asking, well, how do we get this link? We will send these slides after this training with you, with the recording to you all after this. So, okay. Now that we've covered sick and safe days, let's get more in depth about what exactly is paid family leave and state disability insurance. So, starting off with outlining the difference between what needs can get covered with each paid leave benefit. Just to reiterate, for paid sick and safe days, these can be used for short-term leave needs, such as the flu or COVID, medical appointments, and includes safe days. And just to remind you what those are for any reasons related to any qualifying acts of violence, such as domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, or any conduct that includes bodily injury or death to another. And then, whereas for paid family leave and state disability leave, these are both grouped together because they're both used for longer term leave needs, such as cancer treatment, recovering from surgery, giving birth, caring for a seriously ill family member, and bonding with a new baby. Something that not everyone may know is that disability insurance and paid family leave are two halves of a whole program. They are both funded through the California State Disability Insurance Fund, which is funded from your paycheck, which means it's your money. And so that means it's your right to use it when you need it. But this is specifically for employees who pay into the State Disability Insurance Fund. And so employees who pay into the State Disability Insurance Fund receive partial income replacement in California for the following qualifying reasons. So for state disability insurance, it's when you're unable to perform your regular work due to physical or mental injuries, illnesses, and other health-related conditions, and can also include elective surgery, pregnancy, childbirth, and other related conditions. If you're curious, you can check out Legal Aid at Work's fact page, which is linked here. And then for paid family leave, it's specifically for you to, as a parent, to bond and care for a newborn, adopted, or foster child, or as a caregiver to care for a seriously ill family member. And that family member could be a child, spouse, domestic partner, parent, grandparent, grandchild, parent-in-law, or sibling for you who is requesting leave. The last reason that you can take paid family leave is for specific situations related to military deployment of your child, parent, or spouse. And if you're like a visual learner like me, we have this broken down in this visual representation. We have yellow at the top, disability insurance is covered for your health condition or for a pregnancy-related condition. And in red on this bottom row, paid family leave covers parents to bond and care for a new child, for caregivers to care for a seriously ill family member, and for families with family members serving in the military. Okay, I know that was a lot of information, so we want to bring this back and make it interactive. We have a relevant scenario listed here for you. Michaela's mother has Alzheimer's disease and needs Michaela's help to attend doctor's appointments, give her medication, and take care of her at home while she receives treatment. Her mother lives in New York. Can Michaela still receive paid family leave even if her mother lives outside of California? I'd love to see your guesses and participation in the chat. If you could go ahead and take your guess. Can Michaela still receive paid family leave even if her mother is in New York? Okay, Anna said yes. Sylvia said yes. Menya said yes. Vicky, Janet. All right, I'm seeing a lot of yeses in the chat. That is awesome. Love it. Thank you for your participation. All right, well, we have a lot of right answers. Yes, Michaela can use paid family leave to care for her mother because as a caregiver, the caregiver must be a California worker who pays into the California State Disability Insurance Fund. And that leave can be taken all at once or in parts, hourly, daily, or weekly. Funny that you should ask that, Marielle, because in this part we cover that. The care recipient must be a seriously ill family member, but there is no rule about where the care recipient lives, in or out of the state, rather than the caregiver must be a California worker. So like Katie said, the answer is still yes. Okay. I'm going to cover this part first because I'm sure you're also wondering, like, how do I know if I'm contributing to SDI? Well, what you can do is check your paycheck or your pay stub. It would usually be listed as California State Disability Insurance and can also appear as CASDI. And so this is how you would know if you're contributing to the SDI fund and can take benefits. But the other part of it, and we'll get into this, is eligibility requirements are, well, this part we just covered. You must be in the labor market and must have suffered wage loss. You must apply promptly and have been working or been looking for work when a disability began and have sufficient past earnings in your base period. And then you must have earned at least $300 from which state disability insurance deductions were withheld within the base period. And what you can do is go to this link, which is the EDD calculator, where you can input your monthly income to calculate how much you would receive in benefits. So that's that. Something else that we want to highlight is that citizenship and immigration status do not affect the eligibility of paid family leave and state disability insurance benefits. And we will also have this resource linked here too from the EDD's website for benefits and resources for undocumented workers. So, that's our overview of paid family leave and state disability insurance programs. Let's look at the updates for this year. So this is something that has been a huge outreach and education effort to let everyone know that paid family leave and SDI benefits are now 90%. So starting this year, workers earning a low income in California will receive 90% of their regular wages from the state disability insurance and paid family leave. And so low income workers are defined as anyone making 70% or less than the state average weekly wage, which is equivalent to about $63,000 a year this year. Any other workers will receive 70% of their regular wages up to a cap. And we're so excited about this because we know it can be hard to take this time off if wage replacement is not covering like more of the amount that we earn. So this was a big development, and we're excited to let you all know this. The other thing is employees can now use paid family leave without first using vacation time. And so thanks to a new law, AB 2123, it removed employers' ability to require that workers use 2 weeks of their vacation before receiving paid family leave benefits. And we know that when people take this time, it isn't a vacation, and it streamlines the process so workers can take their paid family leave right away. Awesome. It's great to see that, Editha. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Katie to talk about our job protection laws.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. So we also wanted to take time to talk about job protection. So as Jasmine mentioned, paid family leave and state disability insurance, those are programs that allow people to get money while they're taking time off from work. But those programs do not guarantee that somebody will be able to return to their job after they take that leave that they need for them or for their family. And that's the reason that we have separate job protection laws in California, which are rules that say that employers are required to hold folks' jobs so that they can take that time off, they can care for their family, and know that at the end of it, they can return to their position and continue to have an income. So again, paid family leave is probably the most confusing in that leave is in the name, paid family leave. But in California, I always think of it in my mind as paid family insurance. It's an insurance program that guarantees that you can receive income, but it does not hold your job. So there are some times when people might qualify for those monetary benefits, but their job might not be safe, or their employer might be required to hold their job for them, but maybe they haven't been paying into the program, so they won't be able to receive that income. Next slide. So job protection is a separate set of protections that requires an employer to basically not hold that time off against somebody, and make sure that they can return to their position. These laws also require employers to do things like continue somebody's benefits while they're taking that time off. You've probably heard of these laws before, like especially the FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act. That's the one that I think the most of us have heard about. And California has a separate law called the California Family Rights Act. So if somebody does qualify, their employer needs to continue their benefits and ensure that after their leave, they can return to basically the same position that they had beforehand. And importantly, employers are not allowed to deny leave if somebody qualifies for it and say like, oh, this isn't a convenient time, or oops, I gave your job away. And employers aren't allowed to treat people worse for taking time off if they're entitled to job protection. So they can't like give them points or discipline them for being gone from work if they're covered by one of these job protection laws. Next slide. So importantly, California has some really good protections in the job protection category. So many of us have likely heard of the FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act. And so that's a federal law that tells employers that there are circumstances where they need to hold their workers' jobs for them if they're taking time off to bond with a new child, for their own serious health condition, or to take care of a seriously ill family member. So that's a federal law and applies to all 50 states. So employers across all of those states need to follow it. But in California, we have some additional protections that are stronger, which means that employers within California need to follow these California laws. They can't say like, oh, I just want to follow the federal laws. If their employers and their employees are working in California, the California protections apply. So there's the California Family Rights Act which is a lot like the FMLA, and then pregnancy disability leave, which is a separate protection just for people who have health conditions related to pregnancy or childbirth. So I'd recommend just don't think about the FMLA. It's generally not going to be helpful. Let's focus on the California Family Rights Act and pregnancy disability leave because they're always going to offer more. So the California Family Rights Act and the FMLA provide workers with 12 weeks that they can take off in 1 year with their job safe. Their employer doesn't need to pay them during that time, but their employer does need to hold their position. So if somebody has a serious health condition and needs many weeks off in a row, they can use it all at once. But people can also break this up over time. So if somebody has a serious health condition that requires weekly medical appointments or intermittent episodes where they need a couple of days off, they can spread their California Family Rights Act time throughout the year based on their medical need. So their employer has to restore them to basically the same job or something very similar when they're off of their leave. Their employer does need to continue whatever health benefits that they have throughout that time. So if the employer's paying some money into their benefits, the employer needs to keep paying that amount of money into those benefits. And importantly, employers are not allowed to treat people worse for taking that time off. Importantly, the California Family Rights Act does have some strict requirements, though, in terms of who qualifies for it. So earlier, Jasmine was talking about paid family leave and state disability insurance, where basically most workers pay in, and if they pay in, they can get those benefits. For the California Family Rights Act, so job protected leave, the requirements are a little bit more strict. So first of all, somebody needs to have been working for their employer for at least 1 year. Secondly, within that year, they need to have worked for that employer for at least 1,250 hours, which comes out to an average about 25 hours per week. And then finally, that employer has to have 5 or more employees. So this is the one, the 5 or more employees, which is one of the main reasons that I encourage you to think about the California Family Rights Act instead of the FMLA, because the federal FMLA only applies if an employer has 50 or more employees nearby that person's work site. Fortunately, due to advocacy by the California Work and Family Coalition and many partners in California, job protection is available if an employer has only 5 or more employees. So California Family Rights Act, which is what we were just talking about, that's for a serious health condition. It's for bonding with a new child or for taking care of a seriously ill family member or dealing with certain military exigencies. Pregnancy disability leave is a separate and additional protection. So very importantly, workers who are pregnant and have children, they can take time off under pregnancy disability leave, and they can save those 12 weeks from the California Family Rights Act for afterwards, meaning that they can have more time off total. So time for their health and time to bond. So pregnancy disability leave is solely about that worker's health. So time off that they need related to pregnancy or childbirth related health conditions. So it applies to anybody who works for an employer with at least 5 employees. So somebody can be a brand new employee, they can work part-time, but if they're an employee and their employer has at least 5 workers, they'll be covered by pregnancy disability leave. And what it provides is up to 4 months of job protected leave from work when someone cannot work because of their pregnancy or a related health condition. So while it's up to 4 months total, it's limited to when someone cannot work because of their health. So typically, someone is not actually going to be disabled from working by their pregnancy for 4 months. Most often, if there are no complications and somebody doesn't have a particularly physically difficult job, most healthcare providers will certify somebody as needing 4 weeks before their due date and 6 weeks after for a vaginal birth or 8 weeks after for a C-section. So for most people, it's going to be 12 to 14 weeks off, 10 to 12 weeks off. But the reason it's up to 4 months total is so that if somebody has a particularly difficult pregnancy or recovery, they can take that time that they need without having to eat into their bonding time with their baby. With the goal being that we don't want people to work up until the day that they give birth if it's not comfortable or safe for them, thinking that somehow it will help their baby later on. So this allows people to take time off specifically just for their health. If somebody just chooses not to take this time and works up until the day that they have their baby, it doesn't even mean that they're going to be disabled for a longer time after their child is born. So there's not any reason to save up this time. If somebody needs to be off because of their health, they should use pregnancy disability leave and take that time off. So it can be used close to somebody's due date when they can't work because of their health. It can also be used for intermittent reasons, like if somebody has really difficult morning sickness earlier in their pregnancy. And it can also be used for prenatal care, so medical appointments related to a pregnancy. So those were the job protection laws that are most important to know about. And fortunately, we do have some big changes to safe leave in California this year that I want to talk about. So in addition to job protected leave for pregnancy and job protected leave for baby bonding and family caregiving, people in California have the right to time off for reasons related to safety from violence. So prior to this year, people could take time off to go to court for their safety if they had experienced violence, and that can be sexual assault, stalking, or domestic violence, or if they had a family member who was killed as a result of violence. So to go to court, if their employer had at least 25 employees, they could also take that time for additional reasons like seeking medical services or safety planning or moving from an unsafe home. But one of the problems was that people's family members didn't have the right to take time off to support them. So somebody who was going to court to seek a restraining order, they'd have to do that on their own. They wouldn't have a family member who could take that time off to be there with them without risking getting fired. That person who is living in an unsafe home and wanted to move out during the day when their partner was off at work, their family members wouldn't be able to take time off to help them move and help make sure that they were safe. So AB 2499, which was supported by the Work and Family Coalition and probably many folks on this call, strengthened safe leave protections, made them easier to enforce, and also added the ability of family members to take time off to support their loved one in getting safe. So now family members can take up to 2 weeks off to help somebody in seeking legal services, help them with their recovery, moving to a safer home, lots of different reasons just related to making sure that their loved one can recover and can be safe, and for that person's own recovery and safety if they have recovery or safety needs related to the violence that their loved one experienced. So to recap, some of the big improvements in law in California for 2025 are that people can use their paid sick days for helping a family member get safe from violence. People who need to take time off to support their family member in getting safe from violence can do that while knowing that their job is safe. As Jasmine talked about, employees can use their paid family leave without having to burn through their vacation time first, which I think we all know people don't get enough vacation time and they need to save that for other reasons or even just vacation. And then finally, the increase in paid family leave and state disability insurance benefits to 90% of pay, which is just really wonderful, exciting news, because who can afford to lose 40% of their income? Not most of us, not most people, but with 90% of income, our hope is that more family caregivers will be able to be there with their loved ones, more parents will be able to bond with their new children, and more people will just be able to listen to their doctor's advice and take time off when they recommend that they do that for their health. And I will pass it to Katie to talk about the federal landscape. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So great to be here with you all this evening talking about these really important changes. So I just want to sort of acknowledge that we are in a rapidly evolving federal landscape and talk a little bit about what we feel that means for our leave protections here in California. I'm going to just really focus on the laws that we talked about today, but do also want to acknowledge that the federal landscape is, of course, impacting all of us in our communities in different ways right now. Next slide. So as folks have already mentioned on this webinar, I think the real thing to keep in mind here is we only have one federal leave law. So the federal government can only really make changes to federal laws, and all we have is FMLA at the federal level. All the laws that we talked about today that are California state laws, again, our state laws, our state government is the one who can make changes to those laws. So what that means is that California paid sick days, pregnancy disability leave, the California Family Rights Act, safe leave are all state laws that apply to us here in California. Additionally, our state leave program, so the way that people can receive partial pay when they need leave from work, paid family leave, and disability insurance, do not receive federal funding. We fund these programs through contributions from our paychecks, and they are 100% funded by California workers. No federal funding is part of these programs. So again, this was already mentioned, but just to underscore this, undocumented workers can apply for and be eligible to receive paid family leave and disability insurance benefits, and they're not considered public charge benefits. Next slide, please. So what's next? How you can be part of the change. So again, I'm going to just focus on how you can take action to be part of changing our laws in here in California and communicating to our legislators just how essential these programs are in California. Again, though, I know there's a lot of issues that need advocacy right now, so this is a great time to just be a voice and to speak up about the issues that you care about, to be active in your community and communicate to decision makers what you think and believe they should know about your community. So what I really want to stress is that you can be a very effective advocate in very little time. Truly, you can take meaningful action in 5 minutes or less. I think a lot of us, sometimes we think, oh my gosh, I have to know everything possible about this issue, be able to answer, questions just as if I had had a master's degree. That's really not true. You already know how these issues impact you and your community, and that's what you need to be communicating to decision makers. So if you join our newsletter list, we send out something called an action alert that allows you to very quickly take action and communicate directly to your legislators what's important to you. If you are using one of our email action alerts, you can truly email your elected representatives in less than 1 minute. It's amazing, and they do want to hear from their constituents. If you have 2 to 5 minutes, you can call your legislator. Again, we have action alerts that make it super easy to do that. They will just look up your legislator's office phone number for you and connect you in. And all they really want to know is who you are, what you're calling about, and why you're calling. So you don't have to prepare sort of a long speech to make a call to your legislator. You can do it in less than 5 minutes. Next slide, please. So if you have more than 5 minutes, you have so many other ways that you can take action. You can ask your friends, family, or community to take the same action that you took. You can join an event with us, like a virtual or in-person advocacy day. You can share your experience taking paid leave with a reporter or on social media. And if you're interested in any of these potential opportunities, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to just talk to you, see what you're interested in, let you know what we have going on and how you can be involved. And a lot of organizations have opportunities like this, right? Not just us. So just want to really highlight that. People are always looking for sort of ways to get involved in different issues. And so what I just shared is applicable to other folks as well. So we know this was a lot of information and want to make sure that you have resources and places to get more information to answer some more detailed questions, some of which was already happening in the chat. So at the Work and Family Coalition, we have a blog post that covers paid family leave kind of 101 in both English and Spanish. The California Coalition on Family Caregiving has a great paid family leave toolkit. The Employment Development Department, or EDD, which is the government agency that administers paid family leave and disability insurance, also has paid leave information in English and Spanish, and as well as a tutorial online for SDI. And then we also, together with our members, have a resource hub on our page. On our website that highlights a lot of resources from coalition members on specific topics. So lots and lots of ways to get additional information. And then as Jasmine's already mentioned at the beginning, we, of course, here in Los Angeles have experienced the wildfires. And so we work together with our coalition members to put together some resources and information for people impacted by the wildfires. So wanted to be sure to share that with you all. And just also a reminder specifically that paid family leave state disability insurance. These are programs that you can use for your own physical or mental health and to care for someone for their own physical or mental health. So we have a number of different other links on there, but I just wanted to underscore those specific resources for you all today. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Katie Witchett to talk about some other resources.
Thanks, Katie. So a few of our resources at Legal Aid at Work that we wanted to flag is one, we've made a short video in 11 different languages going through the rights of pregnant workers and new parents. So covering leave rights, how to get paid during leave, pregnancy accommodations, as well as lactation accommodations. So feel free to click on that link and share that however is helpful. And we also have on the right here a guide that's step-by-step for people who are pregnant, how they can assert their rights at work and what they're entitled to. It's designed to be readable and to make all of this as uncomplicated as it can be without leaving out important information. Additionally, we have a guide for undocumented workers on how to apply for paid family leave or state disability insurance. So as we've mentioned throughout this training, people who are undocumented can also qualify for these benefits. You just have to be paying into the program. So this has a step-by-step guide on how people can do that. It's also featured on the EDD's website to explain to folks how they can apply without promising to have a social security number if they don't have one that belongs to them. And it's available in a couple of languages. And then finally, feel free to check out our website for other resources. We have guides specifically for LGBTQ+ families on parental leave, resources specifically for dads, specifically for family caregivers, including videos for family caregivers, and other topics like people who have premature babies in the NICU or those who go through the loss of a pregnancy. So feel free to check that out. And we also have our work and family helpline. So this is a helpline where people can call for free confidential legal advice related to issues that come up at work related to leave and pregnancy and family caregiving, things like that. We can provide direct advice to lower wage workers. And then also for anybody who's supporting families, they can reach out for technical advice. So feel free to use it and to share it. Thank you. Oh, and additionally, I wanted to share, we have an upcoming training that we're doing for people who provide support to families. So healthcare providers and social service providers. So more specifically, going through kind of what that process looks like to access leave, how to help people get that, including using medical certifications. And it's going to be simultaneously translated into Spanish, and we'll have 15 plus minutes for question and answer at the end. So if you have additional questions or know providers, feel free to share this information with them. And then the Work and Family Coalition, who put on this wonderful training, is also putting one on in Spanish on March 26th. And I think if you sign up for their newsletter, you'll get additional information on that.
And from all of us at our different organizations, we want to thank you for coming to this presentation and asking all of these great questions so that you can take the leave that you need for yourself or your family. So